Now, the message. You're going to get to see if I actually follow my 5 keys of an effective talk. But the Bible begins in Genesis chapter 1, and we see God creating. And what he creates is good. And when he creates, he blesses. It's what God does. He creates and he blesses. To the Hebrew people, this word blessed or blessing was such a powerful and rich word. One of my friends even says that God's fundamental posture is that of one who blesses. All throughout scriptures, you can just go through it and you'll see blessing and blessing and blessing. The Hebrew people had this thing called the Amidah, and it was 18 blessings that they would say when they woke up, first thing in the morning. They would just bless God back for all the things that he had blessed them with, and before they went to bed. Today, they've actually made it 19 blessings, and it's just something that they do constantly. God creates and he blesses. In the first 2 chapters, things look so good in Genesis. And then in Genesis chapter 3, like many of us know, things just go awry. The world begins to fracture and splinter over the choices that the first humans make. And by the time you get into chapter 4 of Genesis, you have brother killing brother. Chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, it's like the wheels have fallen off from God's intent and design. And it's at this moment in the story, you think God might just give up on creation. But he doesn't. All around the ancient Near East, there were these cities and countries, and they had all of their own unique interpretations of what the divine was like. You had this area called Chaldea, and in Chaldea, it was the place where astrology was birthed. You had people looking up at the skies and discovering a designer. They began to make symbols out of these stars, and they were fascinated with mathematics and the science of these stars. But back on earth, these people would begin to create idols to worship because they wanted to try and make sense, and then they would pave these idols. And yet there was a guy who was a part of the Chaldeans. His name was Abram. We know from the scriptures that his father and his grandfather, they were idol worshipers and idol makers. It's what they did for a living. They would craft things, form things, and sell things so people could bow down in their culture. But in Genesis chapter 12, the whole story begins to shift, and you see God's redemptive plan, God's desire to once again bless everyone, always. Look what it says in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, Chaldea, your people, and your father's household, all of the idol worship, to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went. Abram hears the divine, and the rabbis often wrestle with, man, how did God just choose Abram? And many rabbis believe that one night Abram was looking up at the stars. He knew the folklore and the history from his people, but he looked up and he kind of ascertained that there only had to be one God. And it was at that moment God was searching for someone to carry his legacy, to carry his blessing, and to give it away. And God said, Abram, I see you. And I want to make you great. I want to bless you. And through you, I want you to go and bless everyone always. This word blessing in Hebrew is the word barak. Can you say barak? You can do it. Put a little into it. Well done. Now, this word blessing is a powerful word. Blessings are the material, relational, and spiritual favor God has freely given you. You ever think about that? God has freely given you favor, blessing upon blessing, in material, relational, and spiritual ways. And today, I want to unpack all of the blessings that God has given to you. There's an old hymn that says, count your blessings, one by one. Be surprised for what the Lord has done. And if I think about this blessing, this freely given favor that God has given to you, I want us to spend some time looking at the material, the relational, and the scriptural blessings that God has given to you. I think of it like this, almost as if God has been pouring out this favor onto us. And God has blessed you with materials, things that are physical and tangible. Think about your house, where you live. You walk into the house, the kitchen, the bathrooms, the bedrooms, the closets, all of the stuff, the car. God has given you freely his blessings, and it's a gift. It's a gift from God. I think for many of us, we walk into our house and go, I wish our kitchen could be updated like our neighbors. For some of us, we look in our closets and we see all of the clothes that we have. And let's just be honest, some of those pairs of jeans, they're never gonna fit. But they're still there. And I want you to know everything that you have is a material blessing from a God who just freely gives. You being able to have a job. Who gave you those gifts? Who gave you those opportunities? You being able to have a car, you being able to have the things that you have, they're material blessings. You have them. And God just freely gives. And I think sometimes we just find ourselves looking over here and go, I wish I had that stuff. And we don't spend time counting the blessings that God has freely given to us. And he gives. The fact that you can get a paycheck and that you can make money, that's a blessing from God. God freely gives. When we lived in California, we lived in a 500 square foot bungalow. It was 3 of us, my son, my wife, myself, and actually our dog Fenway. And I lived in this 500 square foot place. The kitchen was so tiny. We basically ate on our couch. The rent was just terribly expensive. And I kept thinking someday, I hope someday we'll not have to be able to rent. We'll be able maybe to buy our own home. And I remember like someone just pulling me aside, just saying, don't jump to another season so quickly. Learn to receive and enjoy the season you're in right now. See it as a gift from God. See it as an opportunity to grow. And I found myself like, there are so many moments where God gives me something and I can't wait for the next season or the next iteration of that. And I feel like God might just be saying to you this morning, hey, I gave you that, receive it. It's a gift. It's a gift. But God doesn't just give material blessings. He also gives more. He gives relational blessings. Friends, I am who I am because of the relationships that God has put in my life. I didn't grow up in the local church. I didn't grow up with parents teaching me from day one who God was. My whole life changed because 2 juniors in high school, and I know many of you know the story, Dominic and Nathan, and they went by the name Dominate, which is just so awesome. But these two saw me in 7th grade, and they said, Carter, do you want to learn how to dominate life? And I said, yes. And they took me under their wing, and they taught me. I had a pastor in West Michigan. He saw something in me, and he said, you were meant to be a teacher. And I want you to graduate college as fast as you can. You come live in my basement. I will teach you everything I know. And you know what? We are going to change the world one West Michigan at a time. And I was like, yes, I'm in. I think about the mentors that God has put in my life. That's a gift. And God has put relationships in your life. He has blessed you with relationships. I think when I lived in Michigan and I didn't know anybody, I moved out there, didn't really know a soul. And some people welcomed me into their table. That changed me. I saw what community actually was like. When I went back to California, I wanted to take that example back. And I wanted to invite people who didn't have a place to sit to come and be around our table. And community, it changed me. I wouldn't miss those Monday nights. Seating around a table, eating, sharing, going to the living room, talking about what was happening in our life and what God was teaching us. I would rearrange my schedule so I could be there every Monday night. Because that's the power of a small group. That's the power of having people who walk through life with you. It's a gift. Some of you have kids. They're a gift. They get to take the legacy of you, the broken and the beautiful, and you gotta raise them and shape them and form them and send them off into the world. Your family, it's a gift. It's a blessing from God. Your in-laws, they're sort of a blessing. You know what I mean? Like you have these amazing blessings that God gives. I love my in-laws. I'm so lucky. I love them. But you have all of these blessings. And I don't know if we count them. I don't know if we are aware of them. But we gotta be able to see the relational blessings that God gives us. And there are seasons I know that maybe for some of you, you're walking through a season of isolation or nobody's there. But man, you know what it's like when there have been people who have just been for you and with you. It's a gift. It's a blessing. It's God's favor poured out for you. But it's not just material and it's not just relational. God wants to bless you in more ways than just that. It's like God just says, I love just blessing you with material. I love blessing you with relational, but I want to give you scriptural. I want to give you the scriptures, but I want to give you the spiritual blessings. Even more so, I want you to understand what grace is. I don't want you to be caught up in living a life of brokenness and shame. I don't want the past to define who you are. I want to set you free. And it's as if God just pours out these grace blessings upon us, and it just fills us. It changes our story. But he doesn't just stop with grace. He goes, I'm going to give every person who receives this spiritual gift of grace, I'm also going to give you gifts of leadership, hospitality, gifts of mercy. Every one of us in this room has gifts that are come from above. And we know what it's like. We know what it's like when we activate those gifts, and we know it's not anything that we could fabricate or manipulate. It's God at work in us and through us. I watch some of you in the care center and the ways that you serve, and I'm like, that's just a spiritual gift. That is a blessing that God has given. I watch how some of you lead. I watch how some of you are so hospitable and you invite people around your table. God has given you grace and God has given you spiritual gifts. And he's just blessing upon blessing upon blessing. God's given you a story, a unique story. Nobody on planet Earth has your story. You have this amazing story that God has given to you. That's amazing. But you know what? I think sometimes when we think about the material or the relational or the spiritual blessings, we just think of all the good stuff. And then Jesus comes along. And Jesus reframes it all. And he begins to talk about a different kind of blessing, a kind of blessing that we often don't want to actually engage with. It's our whole story, though. It's the pain. It's the struggle. It's the brokenness. It's the loss. And Jesus kicks off the greatest sermon ever given in Matthew 5 with the Beatitudes. And look what he says. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. You're blessed when you feel lost, when you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. It's like Jesus is saying, when you have those moments when you are just done, when you don't have anything left to give, it feels like everything important has been taken from you. You know what? You're blessed. And I think some of us would sit here and go, Steve, no. That's not blessing. That's just not fair. And Jesus is saying, no. These moments are for you to be able to encounter more of God. He continues on. He says, you're blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. He's food and drink in the best meal you've ever eat. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful, you find yourselves cared for. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and your heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. And Jesus is saying, you know what blessing looks like? When the insides aren't filled with stress and control, anxiety, worry, and fear, but man, you allow yourself to receive care and comfort from God so that when your eyes look out into the outside world, you see God's fingerprints everywhere. You're not having to compete or fight, but your spirit is one of cooperation with what God is already doing right before your very eyes. That's what blessing looks like. And then he flips it and takes it even farther. And he goes, you're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom. Not only that, count yourselves blessed every time people put you down or throw you out or speak lies about you to discredit me. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort and they are uncomfortable. You can be glad when that happens. Give a cheer even. For though they don't like it, I do. And all heaven applauds. And know that you are in good company. My prophets and witnesses have always gotten into this kind of trouble. Amen. You know? So here's what you got to understand. God's blessings, this favor, freely given to you, material, relational, spiritual. But like, what's the point of it? Is it just for you to kind of have and receive it and keep it and hoard it? No. The gift has always been that you would be blessed to be a blessing. That you would receive to give and share away. But you have to really ask yourself, what does your life really look like? Does it look like someone who is just hoarding, taking all of the free gifts from God and saying yes? Or does your life one that is receiving and it's just leaking out everywhere you go? Are you a fountain to receive God's blessings and then just spew it out everywhere you go? How are you taking the material, the relational, the spiritual, and giving that away? And the question you have to ask yourself is, which one am I? Am I this? It's all mine. It's my house, it's my car, it's my stuff. Don't get close to it, don't touch it, don't dent it, don't scratch it. I've got a basement, and my basement's filled with all of my material stuff, all of my blessings from previous decades, and it's just gonna be stored there. They're relics of a past life, but I don't care. Nobody else can use them, they're mine. My relationships, you know what? They're all mine. I'm not gonna leverage any connections or share or invite anybody to my table. It's all mine. All of my blessings that God has given me, my grace, it's all mine. It's all mine. It's all mine. The spiritual gifts, no, they're just mine. And I'm just gonna sit on the sidelines and because it's mine. My story, it's just mine. My pain, I'm gonna stuff it and hide it because it's all mine and I don't want anybody else to know what I'm going through. It's all mine. But you know what? The most inspiring people in the scriptures are the people who receive and quickly give it away. And I believe you have a choice. You have a choice to use it, or I think you're gonna lose it. I see this with skills. If someone is great in the game of basketball and they work hard at their game, they practice daily, they get better. But if they don't use it, and they sit on the couch and they watch Netflix and they binge eat, all of a sudden that talent begins to atrophy and they lose it. And I think that's what happens. I think God blessed you so that you could be a blessing for others. I love hearing stories of how people are opening up their lives in their homes. They have an extra room. A guy stopped me on the train recently and he said, hey, you know what? I didn't have a place to live. and I didn't know where I was gonna go. And somebody at Willow opened up their home for me and my 2 sons. And it's given me a chance of a new life to launch my business. And I'm like, how amazing is that? That guy, blessed to be a blessing, opens the door, and now this new business is gonna be leveraged. I think we have to live more like this. I think what's so beautiful is when people actually leverage their relationships. There are people who go, you know what, I've got a story. I wanna give it away. I used to be a junior high pastor. And one time we had a big event coming up, and I looked at these junior high students and I just wanted to tell them, your mom might drive a Toyota Camry, your dad might drive a Volvo or a minivan, but I want you to know every seat in your car is a blessing from God. And every seat in your car, you should give it a name. And I told them this story because I was given a car in college. It was a 1983 Ford Country Squire limited edition station wagon. It had wood paneling all around it, which literally meant I could never get a date in college. The car could go no more than 52 miles per hour without shaking. And one day I read the story where Jesus is talking in this party at this house when all of a sudden, like rooftop shingles begin to move, and 4 guys in the roof are lowering their friend. Because these 4 friends were like, you know what? If we can get our buddy next to Jesus, Jesus could heal him. And the scriptures say that when Jesus saw their faith, the 4 friends, he looked at the man and he healed him, set him free. And I just read that. I'm like, I don't live with that kind of urgency with my story. And God said, well, how many seats? He whispers to me in the car, how many seats are in your car? So I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, keep looking straight, 7, 8. And then I could fit 5 in the very